What's up, football fans? The NFL draft is just around the corner, and I'm fired up to talk about some players who might not be getting the buzz they deserve, but who could absolutely turn heads once they step onto an NFL field. These are the guys flying under the radar. The ones analysts might not be hyping up too much, but when you take a closer look, their upside is hard to ignore. I'm going to break down a group of players, one from each key position, except quarterback, since the team in question doesn't need to go that route right now. And most of these prospects are likely come off the board on day 2, maybe even day 3 in some cases. But make no mistake, the talent is real, and if things go right, some of these names could become legit starters in the league. Let's kick things off at running back. Devin Neal from the University of Kansas is a name I've brought up before, and honestly, I'm still a big believer. The guy's been a rock for the Jayhawks over 4 seasons. Born and raised in Lawrence, he chose to stay home rather than transfer to a bigger program, and that says a lot about his loyalty and leadership. He was a team captain multiple times, and he played a massive role in helping to turn Kansas into a more competitive squad. What stands out to me about Neal is his patience when carrying the ball. He's the kind of runner who lets the play develop, waits for the right crease, and then makes his move. In that sense, he reminds me a bit of Le'Veon Bell. Now, don't get it twisted. He doesn't have the same burst or elite-level traits that Bell had in his prime, but Neal has solid speed and, more importantly, great vision. He's also a capable pass catcher, which adds value in today's NFL. Now, I wouldn't call him a 3-down back right away, but I do think he could carve out a key role in a committee. If you're building a balanced backfield, Devin Neal could be a perfect complement. Most draft projections have him landing somewhere between the 3rd and 4th round. But honestly, I think he's a solid 3rd-round talent. I wouldn't even blink if he came off the board late in the 2nd. For this team specifically, maybe that's a little early depending on how the board shakes out. But if you're picking in the early 70s and Neal is there, that's a value you can't overlook. All right, shifting gears now to the wide receiver spot. Let's talk about Torrey Horton out of Colorado State. He's another guy I believe is being overlooked a bit, but he has the tools to stick in the league. I'd peg him as a 3rd-round prospect, and just like with Neal, I wouldn't be mad if someone grabbed him in the late 2nd round. Not necessarily for a team picking in the top 20 or even top 30, but if he goes around pick 72, that's fair game in my book. Horton dealt with an injury last season, which limited him to just a few games, maybe 4 or 5, but he's healthy now and looking sharp. He ran the mid-4.4s and has good size, around 6'2" and over 200 pounds. In 2023, he racked up more than 1,000 receiving yards despite missing time, which is no small feat. What I really like about Horton is his versatility. He can line up outside or work from the slot, which gives you options depending on the scheme. For a team that already has weapons like DJ Moore and Rome Odunze, Horton could slide in and compete right away with guys like Amari Zaccheaus or Deontay Vines for snaps. He's got that kind of potential. Maybe not as a number 1 option, but definitely someone who could develop into a reliable starter and bring some big playability. Now, let's move on to the tight end position. Mitchell Evans out of Notre Dame is someone I've got a soft spot for. He might not be the flashiest athlete, but he brings a lot to the table. I'm not totally convinced he'll be a full-on breakout star, but I do think he could be a rock-solid piece of tight end group. At worst, he's a dependable number 2 who can step in when needed. He had a strong run during Notre Dame's playoff push, including a clutch sideline grab in a tight matchup against Georgia that helped swing the game. He's also a very solid blocker, which is something you don't always get with college tight ends these days. Notre Dame has a history of producing NFL-ready tight ends, and Evans fits that mold. For a team that already has someone like Cole Kmet playing at a high level, adding a guy like Evans in the 4th or 5th round could be a great value. Maybe the 3rd round is a bit early, especially around pick 72, but I'd be more than happy with him coming in as a developmental piece who could eventually start. It really comes down to what the team needs more urgently, more depth at wide receiver or a second tight, and to rotate with Kmet. Personally, I lean slightly toward tight end. There's a bigger chance of finding value there in the middle rounds, and Evans is someone I think could grow into a reliable contributor over time. All right, let's jump into the trenches now and talk about the offensive line. There's a tackle prospect who's getting a lot of buzz lately, and I get why. He's probably going to be taken in the second or third round, maybe earlier depending on how teams value offensive tackles. Now, I don't necessarily see him as a first-round guy, but offensive line prospects always shoot up boards because teams know how hard it is to find a reliable left tackle. This dude has the size, around 6'6", 330 pounds, and he moves well for a guy his size. He's not exactly light on his feet, but he's got enough agility to work with, and his length is exactly what you want for the position. He's been steadily improving throughout his college career, and while there's still room to grow, especially in terms of technique and foot speed, the raw tools are there. Ideally, he'd have a year to sit and learn, maybe get some rotational reps, but he's not out of place if you have to start him as a rookie. He's smart, coachable, and has shown enough development to make you believe in his upside. There's also another offensive lineman I like, this one out of Arizona, who's more of an interior guy but has played both guard and tackle. At the Big 12 Pro Day, he said outright that he prefers playing guard because he loves getting physical in the run game. And man, when you watch his tape, the word that comes to mind is intensity. This dude plays with a serious mean streak. He's the kind of lineman who blocks through the whistle and enjoys burying defenders. He even said that once he gets his hands on a defender, they're not getting away, and you can see that on film. I think he could be a starting guard in the NFL for the next 10 years. No joke. He's got that kind of ceiling. He might not be the most athletic lineman in the draft, but his power and mentality make him special. He also brings versatility, being able to play both guard spots and fill in at tackle if needed. Especially in the run game, he's a tone setter. I really believe he'll be a name we hear a lot more in the coming years. Now, let's switch over to the defensive side of the ball and talk about a player on the edge who really caught my attention. He's not someone most mock drafts are highlighting early, but I think there's a strong case for him being one of the most underrated pass rushers in this class. Last season, he had almost 10 sacks and 11 tackles for loss. And get this, that was in just 10 games. If he'd played the whole season, no doubt in my mind, he would have cracked double-digit sacks. The production is real, and the explosiveness jumps off the screen when you watch him. He's still a bit raw in certain areas, especially when it comes to setting the edge in the run game, but that's something that can be coached up. What matters is that he's already shown the traits you want in a pass rusher: speed, bend, burst off the line, and that's the kind of upside teams crave. He's got the power to hold his ground against the run, too, even if he's not perfect just yet. With the right coaching, he can grow into a well-rounded defender. His physical tools are in line with players you usually see go in the second round, maybe early third, depending on how the draft board shapes up. I wouldn't be shocked at all if he went somewhere around pick 72. And if he's still there when your team is on the clock, you got to think long and hard about taking him. Even if he starts out as a rotational guy, the potential is there for him to eventually earn a starting spot and become a major piece of your defensive front. Now, let's talk about a defensive tackle who might not have the same flashy numbers as some of the other prospects, but he's a difference maker when you look deeper. The evaluation here was tough because there are a lot of solid interior linemen in this draft, especially in the second and third rounds. But this guy, even though I'm not sure he'll be a consistent pass rusher at the next level, really stood out to me on tape. What he does well is disrupt the run game in ways that don't always show up in highlight reels. He was a huge part of why his team made the college football playoffs. There's one stat that blew me away. His team allowed an average depth of just over 2 yards on runs up the middle. That's not just good, that's elite. And here's the thing. They only faced about 85 of those types of runs all year, which means teams actively avoided attacking his gap. Nearly a third of those runs went for no gain or even losses. That tells you everything you need to know about his impact. He wasn't just holding his ground. He was actively pushing the line of scrimmage backward. That kind of presence in the middle is rare, and while he might not be a three-down player right away, he's definitely someone who can contribute on early downs. If your team needs help stopping the run, he could be a great fit. And if he ends up on a squad with a veteran who can mentor him, help him grow into his role, there's no doubt he could turn into a serious asset on the defensive line. Let's move on to the linebacker spot. I mocked this next guy to a team not long ago, and after watching more of his film, I've got to say he might be one of my favorite players at the position this year. There are some solid linebackers in this class, don't get me wrong, but many of them are a bit older, which can be a factor. This guy is 22, meaning you're getting a younger player who could potentially stick around for a second contract while still being in his prime. He's built like a modern linebacker, standing at around 6'3" and weighing over 250 pounds, which is actually heavier than a lot of today's off-ball backers. Despite his size, he moves really well and has the range to play sideline to sideline. He's not just an athlete, either. He understands the game, processes quickly, and can be used in multiple ways. You want him dropping into coverage? No problem. Need someone to shoot a gap and blitz the quarterback? He can do that too. He's the kind of all-around linebacker that gives defensive coordinators options. I see him starting off as a rotational player, maybe your third linebacker this year, but with the potential to take over the mic or will roll full-time. For a team that just let go of an older linebacker, it makes perfect sense to bring in a more athletic guy like this to rebuild that unit. Now let's talk about a safety who, if not for injury, might have been in the conversation as a late first-round pick. He missed a good chunk of the past season due to a significant knee injury, but since then, he's bounced back better than expected. He ran a 4.51 at his pro day, just 6 months removed from ACL surgery. That's wild. That kind of recovery and performance shows the level of commitment and work ethic he has. When healthy, he was one of the best players on a very talented defense. He's a physical safety who doesn't shy away from contact, but also has the coverage skills to play in space. Right now, he's projected to go somewhere on day 2, maybe late second, more likely early third. If your team picks in the 70s and he's still on the board, that's a steal in my opinion. He can play deep or in the box, and once he's fully back in game shape, he could compete for a starting job. Even if he starts off as a rotational piece, he's going to bring energy and toughness to the secondary. Safety is a real position of need for some teams, and adding a guy like this could immediately strengthen that back end. One more guy I want to spotlight is a cornerback who's not getting much love from draft media, but I think he's a sleeper. He showed out during a recent evaluation event and tested well, with good height and solid 40 time. He's physical, plays with confidence, and has the ball skills you like to see from someone who can line up outside. Some scouts are saying he's more of a 4th-round pick, but I wouldn't be shocked if he sneaks into the end of day 2. He was a leader on his college team and consistently matched up with top receivers. He might not have the flashiest profile, but he's a tough, gritty corner who could surprise some people at the next level. Now, to be clear, I don't think this team is going to target a corner early. It's not a high-priority need at the moment. But if this guy is still there in the 4th or even 5th round, it's worth taking a look. He's the type of player who might start out on special teams, maybe get some reps as a dime corner, and then work his way up. That developmental arc is exactly how you build depth in the secondary. These are the guys who become fan favorites down the line because they come in without hype, grind every day, and eventually make plays when it counts. So there you have it, a group of underrated prospects that I think deserve way more attention heading into this draft. These aren't necessarily household names, but they all bring something special to the table. Whether it's a polished skill set, untapped athletic potential, or just the right mindset, each of these guys has what it takes to stick in the NFL. With the right fit and the right coaching staff, they could end up being the kind of mid-round gems that teams look back on and say, man, how did we get this guy in the 3rd or 4th round? Let me know what you think. Who are some day 2 or day 3 players you're excited about? Any hidden gems you've got your eye on? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And as we inch closer to draft day, stay tuned. There's plenty more to break down. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on our Chicago Bears. And don't be shy. Drop your thoughts on the news in the comments below. Could the Windy City be preparing to welcome back one of its most electric playmakers? The rumor mill is spinning, and the Chicago Bears are reportedly showing strong interest in bringing quarterback Justin Fields back into the fold. After a roller coaster journey that's taken him from Soldier Field to Pittsburgh and now to the New York Jets, Fields may be on the cusp of a dramatic return to the team that once believed he could lead them to greatness. Fields, still just 26 years old, has seen his NFL story unfold like a sports drama, full of promise, setbacks, and flashes of brilliance. After setting the single-game rushing record for a quarterback and notching a 1,000-yard rushing season with the Bears, He was traded in 2024 to the Steelers in what many believed was a premature parting of ways. Yet his time in Pittsburgh, though brief as a starter, revived belief in his capabilities, especially after leading the team to 3 consecutive wins and showcasing a composed, dual-threat presence reminiscent of Cordell Stewart. While the Steelers ultimately chose veteran Russell Wilson as their primary signal caller, Fields made the most of his appearances, finishing the season with a solid 65% completion rate and a 10-touchdown campaign with just 1 interception. Despite the demotion, his poise and athleticism didn't go unnoticed, and the New York Jets quickly locked him in for 2 years at $40 million this past March, naming him their starter before the preseason even began. Now, the Chicago Bears front office is reportedly intrigued by the possibility of rekindling the Fields experiment, especially with questions still lingering about their current quarterback situation. Sources close to Hallis Hall say the coaching staff remains enamored with Fields' potential, citing his growth, maturity, and familiarity with the city and fan base as major assets. It's a move that would surely send shockwaves through the league and electrify Bears fans who never quite got closure on Fields' original run. Whether it's a strategic maneuver or just off-season smoke, one thing is certain: the buzz surrounding Fields and Chicago is real. A reunion would be more than just a roster move. It would be a story of redemption, unfinished business, and maybe even destiny. For a team that's long searched for its quarterback savior, could Justin Fields be the comeback kid they've been waiting for all along? That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our Chicago Bears, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.